Hello and welcome to New Wave Global. You are watching Unraveled with Marvi Sirmed. Last Sunday, the South Asia meeting of Manama Dialogue concluded in Bahrain. Manama Security Dialogue is a significant international forum focusing on regional and global security issues. This year's dialogue was particularly notable for the participation of intelligence officials from Pakistan and India, marking the first time for these officials to meet at a global forum after the establishment of new governments in their respective countries. What broader themes were discussed during and on the sidelines of this event? What is the intelligence mood on both sides? What are the prospects of peace between the two countries, especially after the re-election of Mr. Narendra Modi, who is considered to be a belligerent political actor from Indian side by Pakistan? We shall discuss all these questions from our very special guest tonight. Our guest has recently participated in the Manama South Asia Security Dialogue, where he presented Pakistan's perspective on regional security. Joining us tonight is Senator Syed Mushahid Hussain, a distinguished Pakistani politician and seasoned expert on foreign affairs. He has been elected to Pakistan's Senate multiple times and has held important positions, not just in federal cabinet, but in parliament as well as in parliament, as the chair of important parliamentary committees like Foreign Affairs Committee and Defense, among others. Thank you very much, Senator Mushahid Hussain, for giving time to us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and that too in Washington, D.C., which used to be my home for 4 years when I was a student in the United States of America.
That's very refreshing to hear. You have been, and by the way, for our viewers, Senator Mushahid Hussain has not always been a politician. He started his journey as a journalist from our community. So we still own him as our community, as our colleague as well. So thank you.
And before that, as an academic in the Punjab
As
University
an academic. Also. Absolutely. How can I forget? Yes, absolutely. So many feathers in your hat. Sir,
thank you.
Once again, I start with thanking you for taking out time for us. So let's come to the topic. You attended this, very recently, last week probably, it concluded last Sunday, this important security dialogue in which NISA was the co-host, IISA was another host. And we heard that Pakistani and Indian intelligence officials participated, which was like a very novel idea. It hasn't happened for a long time. What were your observations? What are your comments? What happened? Please share something with us.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to mention that this is supposed to be an off-the-record discussion, and they follow what is called Chatham House rules. But of course, I will give you my assessment in my own words of the mood and overall. So I'm not quoting anybody or specifically, but I can, of course, as an observer, as a participant, as a journalist, and as an academic, I can give you my perspective. Absolutely. And before that, I would like to mention that you mentioned my role as a journalist. I was the first one to start the track 2 between India and Pakistan when I was editor of the Muslim. And I was also the first one to start writing a syndicated column for the Indian newspapers like Times of India and Hindustan Times and the Telegraph. And similarly, Indian journalists were writing for the Muslim, because I feel that as neighbors, we have to communicate with each other. And rather than talking at each other, we should be talking to each other in a very civilized discourse on issues, even if we may differ on some of those issues. Having said that, I think that you talked about Mr. Modi and his belligerent mood. I think the belligerence has somewhat been diminished after the elections, because the elections politically cut down Mr. Modi to size. He had 303 seats in the last parliament. He was expecting to cross over 400, and actually he ended up with 240 seats. And now he has to rely on crutches of coalition partners, both of whom are well known in Pakistan, and both of whom are supposed to be, in my view at least, friends for the peace process between India and Pakistan. So I feel that I sense a change of mood from the Indian side, and I would analyze it in three contexts. One view was that which was pursued by Mr. Modi during his tenure, which was demonize Pakistan, isolate Pakistan, pressure Pakistan, and don't talk to Pakistan. I think that policy failed because it didn't win any votes in this election. And then Pakistan has just gotten elected by a whopping majority in the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member for the next 2 years, 2025 and 26. And secondly, I feel that overall, there's another view that perhaps there should be one view as another being that perhaps we can ignore Pakistan and carry on business as usual. And the third view is, which I found more traction this time, is engage Pakistan, and that there should be engagement between the two countries in different areas. The areas need to be specified. There is low-hanging fruit also, people say, and that should be the revival of the SAARC summit, which India has kept on hold since 2016. There should be resumption of the ambassadorial positions in both high commissioners, rather, in New Delhi and Islamabad. And there can be what I call the 3 C's, cricket, commerce, and culture, to start off with. So I think that there is this sentiment, broadly speaking, and I feel that some friends in the West also are pushing this process, and they would like to see that. And the positive thing is that in Pakistan, as you would know, we had elections recently, but there is no constituency that actively seeks confrontation with India. And India was a non-issue in the elections. India was not even mentioned. So unlike in India, where Pakistan was very much on the agenda. So I think that there is overall a conducive environment to take the process forward, in my view, but it requires political will and putting the mechanism of this process in place.
Yeah, so you mentioned so many things and many questions emerge in my mind, and I'm cognizant of the time as well. We have very little time with you, but we are grateful for your time.
Thank
you. You spoke about the cricket, commerce, and culture. So the cricket has been halted by, I understand, India. Pakistan is ready, and Pakistan has no significant opposition to it. But as far as commerce and culture is concerned, Pakistan was the first one to ban Indian content in Pakistan, and also the trade with India was also, Pakistan's idea. What do you think? Do you sense any, softening of this stance from Pakistan side as well?
I think that just to get the sequence right, soon after the incident that took place in Pulwama, followed by the Indian aggression against Pakistan in Balakot, 2019 February, and Pakistan hit back and shot down 2 of the planes and captured one of their pilots, India imposed a flat 200% duty on Pakistani products, which made a lot of them tenable. And then on 5th August, after the Indian annexation of occupied Kashmir, then trade was suspended. So this was the sequence. India had already imposed 200% duties on that. Having said that, I just like to retrace the steps, because if you recall, in 2013, when Mia Saab came to power, we were close to a free trade agreement. And that free trade agreement was almost on the anvil. And unfortunately, it was derailed from our side. And I think it was a political mistake, because a message came to the government of Pakistan from some of Mr. Modi's, I would say, messengers or interlocutors. And the agreement was being signed between the government of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in Pakistan and the government of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in India, the free trade agreement. And everything was in place. But then there was apparently a messenger who came on behalf of Mr. Modi, a discreet back channel, who told our folks in Islamabad that please wait. Don't be in a hurry to sign with the Congress. We, the BJP, are coming to power and we will sign it big time. And you just have to wait a little bit. In my view, that was a mistake because India-Pakistan relations can be so tricky, so accident prone that if you have the opportunity, we should seize the moment. I think that moment was frittered away.
Sir, are you saying that Mia Nawaz Sharif derailed that particular move just because, someone from India asked him to?
Well, I would say someone from this is the report that I have, that somebody came from the Indian side and they said, just hold on. The BJP government is coming to power soon because the elections were happening in India. And don't sign it with Manmohan Singh government, sign it with us. So then we were about to sign with Manmohan Singh government and our side then delayed it, unfortunately.
I mean, this is quite unusual because usually these discussions
yes, it is unusual.
government to government.
It is unusual.
So
yes.
someone from the opposition approached our prime minister, Pakistan's prime minister, and Pakistani prime minister obliged. Don't you think that's unusual?
But this is
why
not.
The military establishment let it happen?
I think the establishment was not involved in this process. It was Mia Saab is a strong leader. He was fully in command then. And it was a political government's call. I would say this has happened before also. It's not unprecedented. If you're living in the United States of America, and I'll just bring you back to the American elections of 1980, when Jimmy Carter was the president and Iranian government had held the American hostages. And the hostages were about to be freed. Apparently, this is the story which goes in America. But President Reagan was coming to power in the elections. He sent a nominee to the Iranian regime and told them, don't release the hostages before the elections. And because if you do, then, and if you do, Carter will win the elections.
Yeah.
And otherwise, when we come to power, we'll have a good deal with you and you wait. And apparently the Iranian government obliged. And if you recall, you remember history, 20th of January, 1981, the day President Reagan became president, the same day, the American hostages in Iran were duly released by the Iranian regime. So there are precedents for that, where domestic politics trumps foreign policy or other international considerations, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But you see, your example is quite it's relevant as well. But Mr. Reagan, his legacy was stigmatized because of this. After Iran-Contra affair and this particular incident, and it is a big scandal and still quoted as not very positive thing.
Yes, he sold weapons to Iran secretly and in violation of American law.
That's right.
And he got away with it.
And he got away with it. But sir, coming again to the Manama dialogue, I'm sorry. Once again, I do not want you to reveal anything that was said there or quote anyone, because as you said, it was Chatham House rules, and I totally respect that. But what I want to know is, did you receive any vibes from both sides about the continuation or reinstation of the peace process? Because that was one thing that Pakistan called off after Mr. Modi's August 2019 decision of rolling back the statehood of Kashmir, etc. And Pakistan's condition has been, even most recently, the condition has been that India goes back to the pre-2019 position, which India has been refusing quite openly, quite clearly. So what has changed now that Pakistan is, that you think that the security peace dialogue will again resume?
Well, first of all, what I'm referring to is basically analysis based on my observations. It is not government policy either of the government of Pakistan or the government of India. So, but of course, we are in a position to analyze the trends.
That's
and
right.
The trends are that people are now saying that perhaps we can inch forward like small steps. And there's also a view that in the elections that are coming up in occupied Kashmir, apparently in September or October, the state elections, as they call them, there may be a restoration of the status quo ante. Some people say the statehood may be revived. There is talk, or let's say there's chatter, which we have heard from the Indian side informally. So I think this is a work in progress, and some of the steps for normalization can start with, in fact, start with a back channel. You see, there was a back channel in the past. It was a back channel during the time of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. There was a back channel in the time of General Pervez Musharraf. And normally back channels in the cases of Pakistan and India, who often have a dialogue of the deaf, they talk at each other rather than to each other in public. So back channels can be effective if those interlocutors on both sides are credible and they have the backing of the political system and their own system in their respective countries.
Yeah, well, for peacemongers like myself, this is music to my ears, because any any inkling of the peace process is a very good news for the people, at least. But Hawks are gonna say that statehood might come back to Kashmir, Indian held Kashmir, because Indian Supreme Court has also given very clear-cut decision. Indian government will have to bring back the statehood. But 370 is not going anywhere. You know, the ownership rights, the problem of ownerships, property ownership right might also go back to the pre-2019 position. That's also in discussion. But they are not, giving Kashmir the special status back, which is the main issue, because Pakistan's position has been that it's a disputed territory, because the United Nations has recognized it as a disputed territory. But now, with the statehood, with giving the statehood, India is continuing to assert its ownership of Kashmir as their state. How does it change Pakistan's position? I mean, Pakistan's position has been very strong and very clear on that.
I think there's one important development that has taken place in between, and that is a very important lesson for South Asia and for Indian occupation of Kashmir in particular. The popular uprising in Gaza against the Israeli occupation, which shows that issues, conflicts, disputes that are long-standing, like Palestine in the Middle East or Kashmir in South Asia, you cannot brush them aside or wish them away. If you remember, on 7th October 2023, Hamas launched the Al-Aqsa Storm. And before that, we were hearing, you remember the Israeli Prime Minister going to the UN, and he said on 22nd of September, the new Middle East, and he had a map of the so-called new Middle East minus Palestine. And then we had this article in the Foreign Affairs magazine, which is a very prestigious magazine in the US, by Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor to President Biden. He said on 29th of September, if I recall correctly, that the Middle East has never been so calm and so peaceful before as today, meaning that everything is honky-dory, everything is sorted out. And then in a jiffy, as Americans say, in one fine morning, it erupted. So because the core issue remains in the Middle East, which is Palestine, and the core issue remains in South Asia, which is Kashmir. And there's a popular, spontaneous, widespread indigenous resistance among the Kashmiri people to Indian occupation and Indian repression. So the problem will not go away. And I think there is this realization that somehow this issue has to be tackled because it cannot be suppressed by brute force alone, as Palestine has demonstrated and as Kashmir is also demonstrated.
And then we come with, a segue from your comment. In recent weeks, actually, starting from the 7th of June, when India's Prime Minister, new government was elected, new Lok Sabha was elected, the day Mr. Nawaz Sharif posted, a congratulatory post on X, the social media networking site. The same day, there was 2 attacks in Indian held Jammu. Jammu area, which was something new because Jammu has been peaceful for like 10, 15 years. And after that, there has not been any looking back. There have been almost every week there have been attacks, and BJP members, leaders, not the ministers or anything, but the members from Kashmir, Indian held Kashmir, and from Union territory as well, they have been quite vocal and have been openly accusing Pakistan of orchestrating all these attacks, because they have been the allegation goes that these perpetrators who have been, some of them have been killed, some of them have been captured, they're highly trained and the attacks were highly coordinated. They are taking the name of Masood Azhar and Hafiz Saeed once again, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and all these outfits which are accused of being based in Pakistan, on Pakistan's soil. So they are accusing that these attacks are once again being planned in Pakistan and orchestrated from there. What is your comment on that?
I think that's like calling the pot calling the kettle black, because India itself has admitted indirectly, and there was this report, if you have seen it in the May 2023 edition of The Guardian, and Pakistan government has also cited that that in the last 4 years, the Indian Intelligence Organization, RAW, the Research and Analysis Wing, has been engaged in state terrorism against Pakistan, that in the last 4 years, they have gone 20 times to kill people inside Pakistan territory, similar to the operation they carried out in Canada against a Canadian Indian national, and the same operation that they tried to do in the United States, where they were caught red-handed, and the head of RAW, the station chief in Washington, D.C., was thrown out and expelled. And there's been a strong protest both from the US side and the Canadian side. So having done that kind of terrorism, and as you remember, Mr. Modi also said that we have gone inside other countries' territory to kill people. So with that confession, with that track record, and India has the temerity to blame Pakistan for a situation that it itself has caused because of its brutal occupation over the decades, and especially more so in the last 5 years, where the Indian army has been really suppressing the popular and uprising of the Kashmiri people, be it in the valley or be it in Jammu. So the people of Kashmir have a very legitimate right, like the people of Palestine, to resist foreign occupation, to resist annexation, to resist repression, which they are doing. And I salute the valor and the heroism of the Kashmiri women, children, and men who have been braving Indian bayonets and bullets for the last several years and decades.
So you are saying this is all indigenous. It has no links with Jamaat-ud-Dawa and.
Of course. There has been this movement. You go to the Shohada graveyard in Srinagar, and all the graves are there of martyrs, and they are listed with the names and addresses. And the addresses are all in Indian occupied Kashmir. There's no address of anybody from Pakistan there. So, and there's a big barbed wire. There's a huge fence now India has erected all across this line of control and otherwise also. How can they say even a fly cannot go past that? It's so stringent and so well patrolled by the Indian side. And they themselves have not mentioned any Pakistani cross-border incursions. And now all of a sudden, when they are facing this problem, their favorite whipping boy is Pakistan. And they're doing it without any facts and without any evidence, because there's also the United Nations Military Observer Group of India and Pakistan, UNMOGIP. And they are there on both sides of the line of control, and they monitor them. They are there. Indian Army is there. So I think blaming Pakistan is factually inaccurate and unfair and false.
So no one from Indian government or Indian officials have reached out to Pakistan to in this connection recently.
I have no idea about the government interaction. I cannot say about that. India has a mission in Pakistan. headed by a very nice lady whom I have met. She's the charge d'affaires, and I see her at diplomatic receptions, and she's socially very active. And they maintain communication channels, and I believe Pakistan also has the similar status of charge d'affaires in our High Commission in Delhi, and they have that level of low level of interaction, but the channel of communication are open on both sides, and they're not closed.
I've heard she serves excellent food as well.
I haven't had the pleasure of being at her dinners, but I'm sure I'm a fan of South Indian vegetarian food, and if she serves that, it'll be a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Senator, just last two questions. I know you are in a hurry, but I hope these questions will be, quite quick. One is about Brics. You sound hopeful of Pakistan and India, softening of stance especially from Indian side in future. But do you think, and you talked about the low-hanging fruit, which is the resumption of South dialogue. Don't you think if this another low-hanging fruit would be Pakistan's inclusion in Brics? Pakistan is officially, I think, applied for it. But the only problem is India, because everything has to be decided with consensus, and India, can vote against it.
I think that's a very good point. I totally agree with it. In fact, recently I was in Vladivostok in Russia on 19th of June. And I was invited as a keynote speaker at the Brics Forum, the first Pakistani to be invited, because we are still not a member. And here I would also mention, frankly, that there has been perhaps a certain tardiness or delay in our part, because they have a long queue of 29 countries wanting to join. And we only sent our application last year. And that too after I had participated in a Brics event in South Africa. So I think that UAE has joined, Saudi Arabia has joined, Iran has joined, Egypt and Ethiopia have also joined. We should have applied earlier. But having said that, I think Russia and China are very, very keen. And I hope that if we push it with certain kind of tenacity and determination, I'm sure Indian reservations, if any, because they have not been expressed in public as yet, can be perhaps addressed and can be met. In
2022, they voted us out from attending a meeting in China, I believe.
Well, that's possible because we are not a member. Must have been as an observer. But I have attended meetings of Brics, and nobody objected to my presence. So
I know you are probably the first Pakistani to have attended.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had a pleasant interaction where I have with our Indian friends who were there. So I don't think it's that kind of a problem. We are next door neighbors. So we meet up with each other, and it's not that we are not on speaking terms.
Sir, my last question would be about, I know we discussed that we'll only talk about foreign policy with the domestic touch. We have heard you saying that if Trump comes, then Pakistani former Prime Minister Imran Khan might be in a good position to come out of the prison. What do you, are you serious? I mean, do you really think that Trump will be able to do that?
I think one should be very clear on one thing, and I've been saying it since last year. On 5th of November, inshallah, you will have President of the United States by the name of Donald Trump.
Yeah, but will he be able to bring Imran Khan out? That's the question.
I'll just conclude by two examples. In 1984, Ms. Benazir Bhutto was a political prisoner of the Zia military regime. She was being held in Sakhar jail. The United States Congress announced that they're sending Peter Galbraith as a special envoy to meet Benazir Bhutto. A day before he was to land in Karachi, she was given a passport, she was released from prison and sent out to London on a one-way ticket as a free person before the arrival of the American special envoy. In the year 2000, after the military coup, when Mr. Nawaz Sharif was incarcerated, President Clinton constituted a consortium of 3 Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. And he told them that, look here, Mr. Nawaz Sharif is my friend, and my term, Mr. Clinton is saying that, expires on 20th of January 2001. And before that, I want Nawaz Sharif to be a free man. And this consortium delivered. And on 10th of December 2000, Mr. Nawaz Sharif was flown out in a royal plane sent by Saudi Arabia. So I think that we have seen that when there is this kind of, shall we say, phone call or intervention, things fall in place. This is the track record. And I, of course, have been saying that all political prisoners and missing persons should be released, including Mr. Imran Khan.
That is true. But Senator, in both these examples, Pakistan was having one window operation. There was military dictatorship. There's no more, which is no more the case right now. Do you think in Pakistan, it's a hybrid regime and there is still a one window operation?
I'm talking of the state of Pakistan and the United States of America. So I think the state of Pakistan includes all institutions and all aspects of governance.
I understand you are a great spin master. That's what you have been written about in Pakistan when you were information minister of Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and you can spin from a question like this. And I totally.
No, there's no spinning there. It's I think common sense shows that the facts are self-evident. And I was very fortunate to be the spokesman of Pakistan when Pakistan went nuclear. And that was one of Pakistan's finest hours.
Yes.
And we delivered big time on that.
Yes, I remember. And that was goes to your.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And good luck to you in Washington, D.C. Enjoy Washington, D.C. It's a great place to stay and live. And I had 4 great years living in Georgetown with an American Catholic couple. And the American people are good, warm, and welcoming people. Enjoy that hospitality.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you here sometime soon.
And good luck in the American presidential election on 5th of November.
Thank you. You are voting for Mr. Trump, I guess.
Well, I think that he'll not be a warmonger like Biden.
Yeah, but Biden is no more in the race. We have a woman, first woman of color.
Well, let's see. Okay. I think it's about policies, not gender, or I think that's the key thing. So I feel that the key thing is the policy which relates to America as far as engaging the world is concerned, ending the Ukraine war, not expanding NATO, talking to people. And at least Mr. Trump talked about the K issue in July 2019. He mentioned that he was ready to mediate even on the Kashmir issue, which is a positive sign. At least it's on the radar.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Senator Mushahid Hussain, for giving us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.